primary and secondary school. You know that in secondary school, we're even learning the French Revolution. We had books on the French Revolution, so it becomes more it becomes more interesting at university level when now you have different kinds of history, whether it's African history, West African history, and so on. Then you can pick what and how. But go for research in history. You research, analyze facts, and so on and so on. So history, for any journalist or for any, even a medical person, a scientist needs history. Because even the history of medicine itself, they have to understand it. So that's that aspect. What else do you want to do?
Tikwiza theatre, I think, was very dominant in the arts and culture of our country. It produced many actors that, became huge media and cultural personalities in our country. And I think this speaks to Dr. Kaunda and his love for culture. But we'll come, because I'll give you an opportunity to analyze presidents and how you think they've helped in the development of our country. Let's go. Did you win the theatre in 1976 when you went to the festival?
No, it wasn't for the fact of winning. It was in terms of acclaim. And the Soweto that went to Lagos, it was the first time anywhere in the world it was done that way. Nowhere. That's why it was very well acclaimed. When they were going, because I didn't go, somehow my Minister of Culture stopped me from going because I refused to stop a rehearsal for him to enter. I said, that's stupid. How does a minister has come to see the rehearsal of a production? He stands outside there and says, tell Masautso Phiri to stop the rehearsal because I want to come in. I said, no. But I think I was just set up by my colleagues because there was some who didn't want me to go. But anyway, I didn't go. But I was happy that I prepared a group. I prepared it very well. So when they came, they had become stars.
The producers from the background that never usually acknowledged.
When the director didn't even go there, I went there later on for different reasons to Lagos. Yeah.
So before I transition to the post newspapers, we had newspapers, Times of Zambia, Daily Mail, but when ZMBC, when you look in the history of our media, you founded a newspaper.
Yeah. Okay, before I come to that one.
Yeah.
The media, even under the one-party system, was very vibrant, the media in Zambia. Unlike now, it was very, very vibrant. The Sunday Times used to sell 70,000 copies plus per week.
Wow.
Whilst the Times was around 60, 65. Daily Mail was around 30 to 40 per week, per day. The Times was also per day. They used to. And Sunday Times had a column called Sunday Special. It was a very analytical, and it was tolerated under the one-party state. There was criticism there. The Times of Zambia had Kapela Musonda.
On Tuesday.
Yes. Was it on Tuesday or on Friday?
Yeah, Kapela Musonda on Tuesday.
There was Kapela Musonda.
Oh, you are saying, even when we say that there was dictatorship under Dr. Kaunda, you had the daily newspaper making critical analysis of Kaunda's government.
Oh, the other thing I can tell you about the one-party state is that at parliament level, there was very good democracy. In Eastern Province, you'd have MPs who were only a one-term MP. Because the competition, there was no issue of a political party. It's the individuals selling themselves to the community, and later when they're elected, they must fulfill what they say they will help the community have. If they don't, they were kicked out. And a lot of them were one-term MPs. So,
yeah, there was some form of selection criteria. There was primaries that were done.
Yes.
Of course, even some vetoes sometimes would be done. But Keke tried to make it very competitive at parliamentary and world level.
That's why in 1990, if you, how old were you?
Yes.
So in 1990,
I just finished secondary school.
In 1990, there was a group of politicians within UNIP, including, I think, Emmanuel Mwamba and so on. There was an endeavor that was organized, and the minimum the guys were wanted from Kaunda is that they should
reintroduce multi-party state.
No. Multi-party state was very far. That it should be able to allow competition, the same way at Parliament, to allow competition for people who wanted to be MCCs in the province, MCC in the central committee, and so on and so forth.
That he should open up competition at presidential level.
But if he had accepted that at that point, there would not have been the change that will happen. You know, Boss Kaunda failed to manage change. Yeah. Unlike Nyerere. Nyerere managed change. That's why Chama cha Pinduzi has continued, and so on. But because he failed to manage change, within that 1990, you had a situation where Mwamba Luchemba, I think he decided he wanted to be president, and then there was a lot of a bit confusion, which led to, at first, there was the decision that the elections would be in October 1990. That fell through, then it went
referendum, you proposed a referendum.
Then to 1991. It's failure to manage change. Because if there was that democracy within the party going on, it would have led, yes, in the end. But you should remember there was, apart from the Secretary General, you had the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So all those positions in the end would have been electable.
Okay. Competitive.
But he failed to see that, and the result is that we had an election in 1991, and everything was
So bad. You hold that the newspapers were quite independent?
Not independent. They used their initiative to be, it was the individual, for instance, with the times that there was William Saidi and so on, and others. You find that even if you remember Patu Smoko, Patu Smoko to go write about who owns the shop next door. But some of these articles were a reflection of what is government really doing. I'll give you a good example. At that time, you find that people, at that time, journalists would go out to rural areas. If they hear there's hunger this side, they will go. They'll be on the spot. I've never seen a journalist in our rural. I'm only 160 kilometers away, but I've never seen a journalist coming there to face how are the people surviving. We've heard there's been a drought. No one. But the journalists are dead.
You have been, you've raised a very key point, and you've transitioned to become a farmer. How severe is a drought? Because all we see are these strong words, no, it's a worst drought in the last 100 years. What does that mean?
What do they mean about 100 years? That's a big joke about 100 years. And it was a very bad drought. People don't have food. They don't have food. They have to live. If they eat 2 meals a day, they are a very lucky family. In most cases, once a day. And they have to buy the maize. And you know, these rural areas, they're very expensive. The most people who sell to them things are our friends from Rwanda. They have everywhere in the rural area shops.
Oh, those shops run by our colleagues from Rwanda and Burundi have also arrived in rural areas. They also shops.
Every important point, there will be one or two. Where my shopping area, there's one guy from Tanzania. He was the first shop owner who came there. But you have others now. The Rwandese are always there. They are everywhere. Because what happened is that at the time, that conflict there, those who came here, because Zambia has been the refuge for a lot of this country.
Yeah.
those who are behaving well in the camps were allowed, some of them, to fuse into as part of the arrangement with the UNHCR. Yeah, so that is strong.
So the drought is very hard for our people. And you as a journalist would have wished journalists to come and see for themselves.
Journalists, some of these NGOs that claim about dealing with the early marriages, I've never seen any. And there are a lot of early marriages.
And you just watch speeches at hotels and
that is just to get the money. Early marriages, there are either young ones being married, but they want to be married to someone who has already got a wife. Among the Zulus, you find that the first wife will bring her niece to be married to her husband. You know, they have this stupid arrangement.
Yeah.
To be married. So I say now, where are our NGOs? Just like, where are the journalists? But to the journalists, I will add the others as we go.
So what prompted you to form that newspaper in 1982?
I wanted to have an independent newspaper, apart from National Mirror, which was there. I even wrote, at that time, I think it was Dixie Zulu who was in charge of Indeco. He promised, we'll give you adverts. But he put that in writing so that I can be able to show, they promised us. But they never gave us any adverts. So the difference that then the dominance of state media was very strong. For instance, that Sunday Post, I started it as a broadsheet, which was the wrong thing to do. Then it changed to tabloid. That's why when we started, the Weekly Post went straight into a tabloid rather than to do a broadsheet.
For our viewers, people, especially the young people, they may not even touch. So a broadsheet is a wide newspaper.
Yeah.
Then, a tabloid size is smaller,
And
the broadsheet is so big that you have to fold it into two like that. That's a broadsheet. And the tabloid is that one small,
and there's
size.
the difference between the broadsheet British and the British America. But now I think all of them have gone to the American standard, which is a narrower thing rather than
looks like a broadsheet and also looks like a tabloid in between.
Yeah, but the length shows you that now this is a broadsheet, but using the American standard. So it lasted only 12 editions.
12 editions, why?
That is the question my colleagues asked me. Did I mention that we went to Lunda's to know will the newspaper we want work?
So, you worked with various institutions, but by 1990, people credit you and your colleagues of founding the Post newspaper as a weekly Post. Tell us about that story.
The correct position is this. I thought about a newspaper because of the people changed in politics. So I said, unlike in 1982, this time a newspaper can survive on sales. You do a good newspaper, can survive on sales. Then I met Mike Ho, who had just been deported from Malawi. We talked, we agreed. Then John Mukela. Mike Ho knew John Mukela because they were all corresponding for the BBC African service. So even John Mukela said, yeah. So we said, now where can we go?
Was Michael Ho British?
Yeah, British.
So when he was deported to UK, he decided to
he wasn't deported. He was deported from Malawi to Zambia.
Oh, okay. He was a Rhodesian. He was a Zambian.
So he came. So at Pop Square.
And John Mukela, another investigative journalist,
a Zambian. I think he had some problem a bit with the authorities in Lesotho.
So because as a journalist, he had corresponded. he had gone to and I should look for him and come and feature him too.
I should be seeing. I've sent because we are communicating all the time. So I may be seeing him on.
Tell him I'm looking for him. I'm looking for him.
I'll give him your number. I'll give you your number. So I said, guys, this time it can work because people want information. So we said, where can we go? Let's go to Lundazi, where our friend William Banda Tekere, that was his name, a nickname, is harassing people who are involved in multipartyism. So we went.
William Banda, again, our young people may not know, he was a governor at the time. He was a very controversial UNIP governor in Lundazi.
Yes.
And just after multi-party, when the new government came in, he was one of those that was affected, and he was deported. But it was only later brought back, I think, by President Mwanawasa. But go on.
Yeah.
So you go to this man who runs a district in a tyrannical way.
And word had already gone to him that there are these journalists. So I was working for the Americans at the time. So all of us had our own interests. With me, I wanted to assess how strong is the multi-party movement.
Was in the rural areas.
Rural areas, to give a report to my peers. You can't survive without people who pay you. My colleagues, they talked to the editors at the BBC, and Michael even decided that he was going to work on an article from our own correspondent. You report something from there. So we went, because both of them were reporting for BBC, so they agreed. John would deal with the African service and Mike would deal with the general service. We went there, discussed, we even crossed into Malawi, we got to drink some drinks across the border. We crossed and came back. In the morning, we say, this guy, he can do us some bad damage. But by then, our assessments were already going strong. Mukela was the one writing and putting it down with
So
us.
the stories we saw at the time, because they didn't come from public media, the story we saw that Tekere was burning houses for critics of UNIP, was raiding and harassing citizens. Did it come from your group?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You know one thing, that's what I'm saying, even under one-party state, there was a certain level. Journalists, at that time, Kaunda was a bit slightly behind. Even some of the journalists from the civil service, ZIS, would write the stories, use an acronym or some other name, and the stories would filter through.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so it wasn't from us.
But your trip to Lundazi, was it to found a newspaper or to think about a newspaper?
To think about the newspaper, work out the dynamics of having to have that news. Because it was okay. Even when Mike was driving, we'll be discussing, John will be writing, and so on. Until when we reached Katete, there's that long stretch up to the bridge. We were very excited. It will work. Michael even left the steering wheel like a rosy man, throwing his hands in the air. And the three ghosts decided to cross the road. So we knocked them down.
Wow. So
after we didn't stop. We continued. Then we said, guys, if we're in Luapula, those guys have got
we'll bewitch you and give you an accident.
We would have gone back, and they would have done something to us. So thank Easterners, they don't have that kind of juju. So that's how we came. So as we came and continued discussing, that's when Michael says, Masautso, why did the Sunday Post fail? Why did you only produce 12 editions? I said, give us only one reason. I said, the one reason why Sunday Post failed was that we journalists concentrate on the product. We forget it's a business.
Correct.
So Michael said, there's this young accountant. That's how Fred Membe entered the scene.
Mike is on that new Fred Membe.
Yes. There's this young accountant. So he brought Fred Membe. And we educated him about the newspapers. It was not that we didn't know that it's a business. We knew it was a business.
But you didn't know how to run it.
We concentrated on producing a product. Because we didn't want someone criticizing us for a product that is not good.
Okay.
So that is our weakness. I don't know now, but to me, that was my weakness.
The Post newspaper was pioneering. at the time, I think because of the mood in the country, and it was a newspaper that was exposing the depth of the corruption and misgovernance of Dr. Kaunda. I think it had a unique role.
Yeah, not necessarily misgovernance. I think it was more the excesses by, at times, these children. Mm-hmm. Remember there was that, now I'm forgetting, people were giving Kaunda ideas of how they can, Zambia can make money this way and that way.
The Maharishi
and all those
heaven
things.
On earth,
heaven on earth.
Yes.
And so there are certain things that derailed him. And unfortunately for Kaunda is that the people who were close to him from independence, some of them were the cheerleaders. The same way we have cheerleaders now. They were the cheerleaders. If you remember, there was one politician, I know him, he would say, Kaunda! So, sir. You know, that kind of, you know, in the end, the guy, that's why there was that time when he resigned. Okay, Scott Awina wrote a book about whatever, how many hours.
A Night Without the President.
A Night Without the President. But those, they didn't provide the control. Partly because they were also frightened among themselves. That's why they liked Kaunda, because they said he didn't belong to any tribe. He was from there, Malawi. So to suppress themselves from fighting, they said they pushed Kaunda forward. But which was a very big mistake. Because as we went on, things became worse. And maybe Kaunda himself in the end believed that he was there to be there. Yeah. So we came back.
In your role, you ran in trouble with the law. You were locked up very often. You
mean at the post?
Yeah, while you were at the post, because you know the perils of being a journalist and the perils of exposing corruption, exposing all these misgovernance. The state doesn't love that. You know, they punish and they punish media, you know, very, very hard, and you were a victim several times of that. You guys at the post as a group. You had your stint at the post. You later formed your own newspaper. I think today, much later. But I want to come to the section of where we analyze presidents. We are 60 years. Yeah. What did the presidents contribute? What could have been done better? So we analyze all the 7 presidents. But before I go there, the state of the media, in your time and the current time, you will just be mourning that, for example, we have one of the worst drought, and you haven't seen any journalists come even to interview people in your community. Just discuss the state of the media then and now. Where are we having it wrong? What has gone wrong, or what has become better?
Yeah. For instance, in terms of the post, when I finally joined from the American Embassy, the post I had was the editor special projects. That's for investigative work. I rarely stayed in the office. I was in the field. And I was always a fallback. The journalists, if you don't have a lead story, the editor will ask me, do you have something that we can publish? I said, oh, yeah. Then I'll come, write. Then it becomes a source of more stories from the other journalists. We used to travel. The biggest problem now, I don't think, the people that used to travel these parts, they'll hop on a vehicle belonging to an NGO or a politician, and so on. It's not wrong. I remember going out with the Emmanuel Mwamba. He was campaigning in Northern Province. But you have to have an independent mind. Watch, hear what they want to say, hear what the public reception. But your articles, you are independent. You write as you see things correctly. I'll give an example. The 1991 elections, I was at the American Embassy. I gave them a projection of the results more than 2 weeks before the election. More than 2 weeks, giving the percentages of Kaunda and Chiruba exactly the way they came out. They were shocked. But how did you do this when this country has no opinion polls? That's his understanding. You have to understand and assess the way the mood is and the things that are happening. So those are the problems you face. That's the problem we are facing right now. I don't think there are any... I haven't continued following Diggers, because it's supposed to be a newspaper that digs deeper, but I don't know how deep is the digging. And the other ones, anyway, I haven't read the newspaper for some time. I used to read them online, but where I am, the network is
and
not
the
that
emergence
good.
of online, social media and online media, the emergence of new media, how has it disrupted the traditional space of newspapers? And
it's a blessing to the journalists. It gives the journalists freedom to do things. But our journalists, yet, you know, Russian yet, meaning nothing happens to them. You find they will publish something that is unsubstantiated. They don't add value to the information they may have gotten from someone. Because when you are told there's this thing happening, that should just be an entry point.
yeah, for you as a trained journalist,
As a journalist,
you now go into the other principles of verifying.
yes, yeah, but you have to verify. And the other thing I may tell you is this: if in your life as a journalist, that's what I used to tell the journalists. If in your life as a journalist, who have never stepped on someone's toe, then you are just a vuvuzela. You're not doing any, there's no journalism in you. So even if you are reporting sport,
Journalism will offend.
you have to take to the extent. I remember my second case on the second case for defamation, which was brought by Sangwa's colleague, that other guy.
Robert Smeza.
Because they were dealing with these Zambia guys. They wanted to send me for 6 months or pay some fine. I just paid the fine, so I didn't go for 6 months. It's because to me, I don't believe that you can stop writing a story because someone has been charged. No. They have been charged in court. It's not contempt of court to report independent data that you have gathered yourself. Forget about the police and what they are gathering. What you have gathered yourself is not wrong to publish it. That's my belief. But
our contempt laws are very bad in our country.
They are so
because a
bad.
Magistrate or a judge can just declare that that's contempt.
Yes.
You are discussing a matter in court.
In court. But it's nonsense. You are not discussing a matter in court. You've done your own investigation.
And besides, the judge or magistrate have their own independent mind.
Yes.
Why do they fear that they'll be swayed?
Yes, so that is the biggest. So
It is very clear, like in America, while an active case is going on, they have a panel of lawyers discussing the same case, the merits and demerits, the evidence, and speculating and giving opinions. Which way the case will go. Yeah.
But here, so our journalists fear that contempt. Now, if you are going to fear, so my view is that you go as far as possible, but when the trial starts, stop. When the trial starts, because now the police are bringing in their evidence. Report only what has been said in court. Don't come in to say, but I found this, that is wrong. So
that's a difference. Okay. So, like I stated earlier, that we evaluate presidents here because we are celebrating Zambia at 60. We are celebrating jubilee, the countries at 60. But there are things that our presidents could have done better. There are mistakes that they made. The country, 60 years ago was a wealthy African country. We're far richer than Singapore, Vietnam, South Korea.
That I don't like that narrative.
Yeah, so you will explain.
It's a mistaken view.
Yeah. So you'll explain why it is a mistaken view. So let's start, in your view, with Dr. Kaunda. We are lucky he was a founding father and he helps found our country. But discuss him as a leader.
Before Dr. Kaunda became president, there was no one else who could provide ideas and views on which the state would be based. It was his government right behind, and him as president. Now, when you're looking at that, that's what I'll give you this. His statement at independence, he said, we are happy we are independent, but our independence means nothing and is nothing if our subcontinent is not free. And we must make sure it becomes free. At that time, the West, you had the Angola and South Africa there. You had the Congo, which was in turmoil. You had the only corridor was Tanzania. I don't know whether you heard of Hell Run.
Yeah, the Hell Run, yes.
The Hell Run, those few were coming from there. And a number of things were coming from there. But in 1973, the Rhodesians closed the side of the border. When they opened, we closed our side of the border. But we were in a weak spot, really. In 1966, the British brought some Air Force guys with some plane, some Javelin. It was a fighter plane. Javelin. They were just busy making noise around Lusaka's sky, doing nothing. And two of them even defected to Rhodesia. So this is the background we have. We had the embarrassing situation where when there's hunger in this country, we imported maize from the Rhodesians. And the Rhodesians, it was the whites growing maize that was being exported, because it was being exported to Congo. Congo has always been a basket case. The cattle came either from Bechuanaland, which is now Botswana, or from Rhodesia, or from South Africa, which went into Congo. So it was an embarrassing thing. Here is the president of Zambia who criticizes these whites in Rhodesia. But food, he has to go and buy from there. That's when the issue of strategic reserves started. You cannot have a country that doesn't have strategic reserves. What are you? What kind of a president are you? You cannot have that. So that's when the issue of strategic reserves started. It took some time. Because to boost African agriculture, which was the mainstay of the maize grown in Zambia, the government had, you remember, do you know an organization called COS, Credit Organization of Zambia? You remember it? Credit Organization.
I remember Nambo.
That's far much later. There was Credit Organization of Zambia. They tried to give the cattle to the Bembas, my cousins there. How can they give us? They killed and ate. So, Credit Organization of Zambia had major losses. That's it.
It was a forerunner to Lima Bank.
Lima Bank, it was a takeover of, there used to be the Agricultural Bank.
Okay.
In the same building where anti-corruption So it was changed to Lima Bank. Sort of
well, it's Kulima Tower now. Kulima Tower.
Kulima Tower. So it became Lima Bank. Because it was a statement to widen its lending policies to Africans. But banking systems, here, it's very rare that they would have lent people money, especially these poor natives. So not many were able to get at the terms like a Credit Organization of Zambia could give, which was abused. It died with a lot of money and it recovered. So that is that. Now, Kaunda went further. But the problem that came in to bring in the one-party state, there was a party conference in 1968 at the Rock of Authority Mulungushi. there, there was a problem with the various, because they made themselves in cartel. This province and this province united. The target was the Bemba. They didn't like the Bemba, and so on. So it was going to tear the country apart. That's why Kaunda immediately set up a commission to look at the possibility of setting up a one-party state, which came into maturity in 1972, from 1968. But despite that, there are a lot of things didn't change much. 6 years after independence, you go to Copper Belt, these white boys, they will tell you, lo country na kawena, lo mare na katina. That
it
kind
could
of
be a country, but the money is ours.
Yeah, this country is yours, but the money is ours, the miners there. So there used to be a lot of frictions there. But a lot of the things that Kaunda brought up, especially after that statement he made, his campaign was mostly to make sure Portugal falls out, put more pressure on the British about Rhodesia. Fortunately, in 1979, the Commonwealth Conference was done here.
In Lusaka, Zambia hosted the Commonwealth.
Yes. If that conference was somewhere else, Zimbabwe would not have become independent in 1980. It was Kaunda's ability to manipulate Tony Thatcher and so on, such that the conference agreed that the following year people will go for Lancaster constitutional meetings, which led to the independence of Zimbabwe. Though the Zimbabweans were very cheeky to us, because they didn't. In the end, they take a kwacha, this is tissue paper.
When they became independent and the economy was doing very well.
Yes, the tissue paper. So we also laughed at them. When Gono, you know Gono, central bank governor.
Oh, central bank. They want the billions.
The one who was printing money like hell.
And it was losing value every hour.
You had to take it on a wheelbarrow if you had to.
Just to buy bread.
The exchange in the morning was different. It was changing very fast. So we're laughing at them. Now, whose money is tissue paper? So this is the history.
The sacrifices. I said at the beginning of this discussion that Zambia was far richer than Singapore, China, but now we are among the 20 poorest countries in the world, and you say you don't like that comparison or narrative. Explain, I just wanted to...
First of all, at independence, Kaunda always talked about that the country had only 100 graduates, and the people in finishing secondary school were also very few. So Zambia was in a hurry, education-wise and health. And Zambia, Singapore is just a smooth, tiny thing. And it's easy for them to, it was easy for them to make money. For, you know, if you have a port, ships will pass there, you make your money. And you have a very small population. Now, even at the independence there, you had about 2 million or thereabouts, I think, slightly more than 2 million.
But Zambia was, I think, the second or third largest producer of copper after Chile, Peru, and then Zambia, then the DRC.
So, yes, you can produce commodities. You didn't have control of prices. The prices were being set by the London Metal Exchange. There are times you have to understand that certain things which are not in your control, if you are moving too much, the price will also go down. They won't tell you that it's because of your behavior in Zambia. They'll say it's market forces, but that's nonsense. It's not market forces. It's manipulation. So you want your people to have, you want to have more people educated, you want to have more schools, more health, all these things, which they were denied. They were denied during the colonial period. There was a brief period under the colonial government when there was an attempt. It was the first Labour government. The ideas they had was to develop what they called development centers. That's how Katete was developed. That every about 50 or 60 miles must be a point for development, but not all of them came up. And the Labour Party in them was kicked out of power. And those were poisonous views from the Labour Party, from the left. So we went back to the
liberal policies.
No, the people who make things matter in the UK, the Conservative Party, they are the money people, they are everything. Even, you know that the roads came this way because, you see,
Cecil Road.
he lost out.
In mining concession in Cape Town.
Not only Cape Town, Johannesburg and so on and so forth. So he came first to Rhodesia, brought a lot of settlers. That's when a lot of our brothers and sisters, the Zulu and the others, were brought to Zambia. So that from Livingstone to Ndola, 10 miles this side, 10 miles along the Rhino Rail, it's whites. 5 miles that side, 5 miles, it's blacks. The idea was that if there's going to be a quarrel, an upheaval by the local blacks, they should beat the other blacks from Zimbabwe. Anyway, that's besides the point. So that's why I don't buy that view. We had a country
so we
to
had
develop.
Challenges. We had
Yes,
our own challenges.
lots of challenges. To export mint notes, they had to go through Rhodesia. Because there was only one outlet, Rhodesia through Lorenzo Marx, or through Durban that way, or through Windhoek. That's where there was the hell run. And that's how there was an agreement in there between Zambia and China.
Yeah. For our viewers, just to put in context what Mr. Masautso Phiri is saying there, is that in 1965, Ian Smith declared what is called the unilateral Declaration of Independence. And the Commonwealth, the UN, prescribed sanctions. And Kaunda, leading the frontline states, decided to implement those sanctions. So we didn't have any other port we could export or import our goods. We were using Durban, we were using Beira, and we had to go through Zimbabwe. So immediately we acceded to the sanctions because we had to promote them for the benefit of the liberation struggle. We were the first ones to suffer because our borders were closed. We couldn't take our copper through Durban or through Beira, and the corridors through southern Rhodesia, which was Zimbabwe. So we began to export now through Tanzania. There was no road.
Yeah.
That's how there was no road. So we had to bring in our fuel and take our copper. And before that, during the emergence period between 1965 and 1966, we began to airlift both our copper into Nairobi and bring our fuel into Zambia to run the economy. So I'm agreeing with you that Dr. Kaunda faced monumentous challenges at the founding of the country because of those international issues.
And that, and everything else relating to his period of governance, apart from after the Second Republic, issues of security were paramount. I don't know our current presidents, whether they know what security means. It's not only about food security. Food security is important. If there's no food security, then you are lost as a country. But do our, whether it's current president or the immediate past president, including my brother, who we reconciled later on, Frederick Chiluba, do they understand that, okay, we got our independence, we managed to influence change, apart from region. Zimbabwe, South Africa. Because if it wasn't Kaunda, Mandela would have stayed longer.
Yeah.
But because Kaunda maintained dialogue, he was being condemned elsewhere in Africa for maintaining dialogue with South Africa. He maintained that dialogue. When he saw what's there to come, a lot of them, South African Boers to State House to have discussions. In fact, some of the discussions that went up in Sweden between the ANC and the South African Boers started from State House. So these things were happening. As journalists, some of us, you got, but if you are told,
security,
don't report, you don't write. But yeah, this time someone, that one is, then you're busy writing. So we used to keep some of this kind of information, but was it helped?
No, there's a video that has emerged, I think Dr. Kaunda, around 85, 86, he's got a meeting at Mulungushi. Maybe I can find the video and play it. He's got a meeting at Mulungushi and is speaking to the decisions he has made, and he's disclosing for the first time to the public that he has met Vorster, who was Prime Minister of South Africa, at a bridge.
Yes,
and that
Victoria
he has
Falls.
met,
That was very important one.
Yes, that he has met Ian Smith in Livingstone, and that Ian Smith has been at State House. There's that video, probably you have seen it.
I haven't seen it.
And because he was being accused that he's a traitor, like you were saying. So because he hosted all the liberation movements here in Zambia, whether they were, MPLA from Angola, whether it is UNITA later that they differed, whether it was Frelimo from Mozambique, whether it was ZANU and ZAP from Namibia, whether it was ANC and the Communist Party from South Africa, whether it was SWAPO from Namibia, they were all here. Their headquarters was in Lusaka. So when Kaunda was engaging in those discussions of independence, there was a lot of suspicions about his role. So they felt that he's a traitor. Hence that video. Now he's explaining to the public that these boys can never sell out. We can never sell out. We are pursuing peace. It's dangerous, but we are pursuing peace. I'll look for that video and maybe we can play it.
Yeah. In fact, on that one, before 1978, the Rhodesians wouldn't cross into Zambia.
No.
Before 1978. But 1978, something very significant happened. The Rhodesians in Luangwa, that's why in Luangwa they were busy lobbying. Because yes, they were busy lobbying. The Zambians broke through. I think at that time, I can't remember which commander, whether it was the joint commander for the Zambia Defense Forces. They crossed. It was Kaunda. We are ready to take Salisbury. Kaunda said, guys, come back. We don't want a racial war. And from that time in 1978, Kaunda says, no gun will be fired at the borders without the political decision.
Yeah, it was very frustrating for the men in uniform who were facing front line, and the jets would come in from, or helicopters would come from Ian Smith, the Sailor Scouts, as they were called. They came and bombed Nkumbi College in Mkushi. They bomb and kill, and they fly out with helicopters, and our defense forces could see, but they had no order to bring them down. Hence the frustration.
Yes.
But Kaunda knew that to maintain peace, some sacrifices had to be done.
So let's see, in terms of the video you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because in 1978, that's when Kaunda put a stop. But before that, these guys were being cleared on the borders. I used to drive at night to Chirundu, because my sister was the...
Oh, you are saying when the Sailor Scouts, the Ian Smith soldiers, come into Zambia, our defense forces would clear them?
Who would clear them? That one, the defense force was right on top.
Okay.
That's why I'm telling you that they crossed. I can't remember which commander was. They crossed, and this commander says to the president, we are on our way to Salisbury. Can we go? The president, guys, come back. We don't want a racial war. Okay. And it was true. There was going to be a racial war. And those provocations were deliberate. The provocations were deliberate. Incite a war. But once there's a war, all rules change. There are no rules when there's a racial war. So that is that aspect. What was the other point?
Yeah,
I'm still on it.
Remember, I had said Zambia was far a wealthier country, and you are explaining the challenges. I'm still explaining.
Those are part of the challenges. You know, the destruction of infrastructure in Zambia was tremendous. At Luangwa, there was a bridge there which was bombed. The other one which is there was built later on.
Kafue,
Chongwe. Was one of the routes when they came in helicopters, they used to use that Chongwe River, was it to be below
Radar
and so on and so on. Yeah. But all these things, what we should take, which at times I condemn the academics, because there are a lot of academics who have condemned Kaunda as a dictator. They didn't understand. They don't even understand the circumstances he was ruling. They don't even understand the issues of security. I already mentioned strategic reserve. After majority rule in South Africa, do you think all the Boers, you know, the old Boer republics, Transvaal, Orange Free State, and so, do you think all the Boers in South Africa now accept black rule?
No, not necessarily.
So one of the security issues our president, if he understands security, because I don't think he understands it, our most things should have a desk that looks at which are possible future flashpoints. There can be a problem in South Africa. Congo will always be a problem. Are we looking ahead? Even in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, remember that's where Mugabe killed a lot of young people. I can't remember, there was a camp which they had. They killed them for being black and Ndebele.
Oh, you mean is that
I've forgotten.
Gukurahundi, where about 20,000 were killed in Bulawayo.
They were killed for simply being black and Ndebele. You know, things like that. So these kind of issues, they don't die. So if the way we were in Zambia, we should always be ahead. Have a president who can say, okay, I want to leave a tradition where security is an important element of our existence.
So Kaunda did that. Is that your argument?
What I'm saying, he prepared the grounds on which people should have built.
Okay.
But first of all, it was Chilwa exposing the tunnels. This is where tortures were being done, which is nonsense. You know that during the Second World War, the UK king was staying in Northern Rhodesia. He stayed in Northern Rhodesia. You know that?
No.
You check records. You can go to public records in London. You can go to records that's if there, because there have been people coming to the National Archives in the name of doing research, but stealing documents. A lot of documents they have gone. I don't know now, but the times I was there, I knew going there are documents that went. So, you used to stay here. Lokimva, that's why you'd go hunting game. And at Lokimva, there were tunnels there. Chirupula's place, there were tunnels, because those are the places you used to go. And that's why Ndola Airport was created as an RAF base, Royal Air Force base here in Zambia, to carry letters from Cape Town through here, that way. If, let's say, the king is going to speak, he's here, he's recorded here, it's just taken there and broadcast. So these are the things, we have to know this history. A president of Zambia must know where we are coming from and prepare for where are we going. What difference am I going to make as president of Zambia? What difference? Instead of, right now, I think we're still having presidents who are on trial by error, or some of them is just arrogance. It was like our current president. More than 7 million people voted. And 3/4 of those, or more than 3/4, voted for him. But he says, no, I can't stay in State House. Allah. That's an insult to the voter. How do you say you can't stay in State House? In America, a president is voted in, he will stay in White House. He won't stay anywhere. In UK, a man, his party wins, he has number 10 Downing Street. Now here, we know the address for the president is his State House. Now, I don't know, I'm told there's some community house somewhere. But, you know, that's an abuse of authority. It makes that man the most expensive president we've ever had since independence.
Explain.
We need to look at the, if we can open the let them release the figures, doing upgrades of security, doing build some helipads for the helicopters, and then there are these guys who, the motorcades guys, bringing the president to the office. He's like an ordinary worker. He's not an ordinary worker. That's why I want him at State House. Because he's not an ordinary worker who should go to State House to work. Lunch. It's lunch now. Oh.
He knocks off.
He knocks off. But I must go back to work. That's nonsense. We should never allow this, because it's a very bad precedent. This is 60 years. Well, I've gone back to the issue of security, because it pains me as a voter. It pains me as a Zambian who has lived before independence, after independence, First Republic, Second Republic, Third Republic. His, I think, is the Fifth Republic now. And he decides he doesn't want to stay in State House. It's not too late. He should go there.
Some people have been arguing that it is his choice and we should respect it.
No, it's never his choice. The president has no choice where to stay. You elect him, let him go to where he was elected to stay. State House. That's the home of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, not the community house. Staying at community house, he's a lucky man. We no longer have mercenaries, or they have been reduced. But if we have an American base here, you're opening for Al-Qaeda and so on. It means in a community house, you won't be safe. You can be bombed out of there. During the liberation struggle, Nyerere used to, Nkomo used to say,
Joshua Nkomo from
in Long Acres, there was a house there he was staying. The trick of that house was on the line of tunnels, the ones which were exposed. And one thing that has bothered me is that President Chiluba abused his landslide. He got a landslide, just the same as Hakainde Hichilema. He got a landslide, meaning Zambians said, let's have change. Let's have this man to stay in State House. Not let's have change. Then we begin looking for his address. Where is he? No. It's unfair on our intelligence. It's unfair on us as human beings. So actions that are done can have long-term repercussions. Assume, before you come in, assume I live in Mongo. I'm elected president. I tell you, me, I don't want to stay in State House. I want to stay in my home in Mongo. Provide a helicopter and a helipad near my house. A helicopter to be picking me every morning to the airport. Then in a motorcade takes me to the office. I work. I'll eat from the State House so that I don't, I'm being magnanimous. So, wrong word. I'm being very good to the Zambian people. So, we have a problem. It's a big problem. The only person who can solve it is President Hakainde Hichilema. He's the only man. If he has pride, let him swallow his pride. If he's arrogant, let him stop being arrogant. If he's selfish, let him stop being selfish. Let him think about Zambians. Now, this, I've mentioned this. Now, let me show you who should have come in. The Speaker of the National Assembly. The Speaker of the National Assembly is not there just to advocate debate. She or he is another eye on what happens in Zambia. The moment issues of strategic reserve of maize came up, she should have spoken out. Or she should have said, what am I missing? Put a committee of parliament, look at this issue. She has a tremendous power to do the right thing. But she kept quiet and she does wrong things altogether. She's in the media for wrong things. You have the judiciary. The Chief Justice is the one who saw in this man. The moment the president said he's staying in his house, the Chief Justice should have been able to pass word quietly. Maybe he did. Let him tell us publicly. We told the president, don't stay at that house. Go to State House. If the Chief Justice mentioned in any way to the President that it's wrong for you to stay in your house because you are elected to stay at State House, let us know. The others, the Law Association of Zambia, on issues of strategic, maize, State House. They should have spoken out. I don't know, maybe the Law Association did. They are concerned about who is a lawyer and who is not a lawyer. They are concerned about the money their members are taking. But they should be concerned about us, Zambians. The law is for us. They tell us that ignorance is no defense. Yeah, if we are ignorant, we have no defense. We want them to help us understand why should a president elected to stay in State House refuse the people's appointment? Why? And the president himself should tell us. I don't know, I stay at a farm. Maybe I missed his explanation, but I would have found it if he had said, I'm staying at my house.
No, first of all, they said State House, Nkwazi House was dilapidated and that the president must be given time for the renovations to go ahead. People bought that story. I think renovations, extensive renovations were done, and the president was reminded that he needed to move to State House. And all of a sudden, the argument changed that that was his preference and that there was no law compelling the president to stay at State House.
No, that's wrong. It's part of the Constitution that you are elected, you go to State House. Okay, let's imagine that all the MPs, like at the time there was COVID, me, I don't want to go to Parliament. I will talk from my home. Just tell the Speaker to put us, to invest in that communication so that we do it from home. Is Parliament going to behave the same way? The answer is no. For instance, what I would like to ask the President, if it's his preference, is he going to refund the money spent upgrading that? And upgrading is not a one-time thing. It's a continuous thing. That's why he's lucky there are no mercenaries in the world. Oh, they're there, but if we have an American base, the likelihood is Al-Qaeda, what and what, they will come. And they can bomb him out of there. Is he going to, oh, but he will be dead, or I don't know whether have they built any tunnel there, or the escape routes are just roads. If they see the people who do damage like that, they do a lot of extensive research, study the habits of a president, his security, and so on and so forth. And they can easily clear him. So personally, I'm begging him to do the right thing before his term finishes. The right thing, let him go to State House. Let him apologize to the Zambian people. I'm sorry, people, I decided to stay in my house. I want to go to State House. Let him go there. The lawyers have been quiet. I don't know whether they took up a case. I've already said the Speaker was quiet. Members of Parliament, they have been partisan. Instead of saying, this is a bad precedent. The President, but in State House. It's important you stay in State House. But instead, they want to have by-elections, but maybe they can bring one party state the back door. Because anyone who's thinking about by-elections now is back door one party. So that no one questions him. But personally, I talk, and I'm talking, and I want to be heard. I want to know that the president has heard that he needs to move to State House. So that's that.
Wonderful, wonderful. You've literally touched on Keke, Kaunda, and you've touched on Ichilema, especially on the sore point of him moving to State House and the associated security and cost implications of him staying at Community House instead of the designated State House.
That one is an unauthorized residence. And our system, we got it from the British, but because we're a presidential system, also got some of it from the Americans. The moment he decided he's going to say there, the system just say, protect the president.
Yeah.
Protect the president. Protect the president. So they began spending money which was not planned for. to keep the president safe. That's why I'm saying that he is the most expensive president we've ever had since independence. And as long as he continues staying there, the figures will be high.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. What are your views about Dr. Chiluba?
Chiluba took Zambia back 20 years through his privatization. Privatization, which our current president benefited, and that's how he got money. And what is that? You know, in America, when he shut down a company, I've forgotten the term.
Liquidation.
Liquidation. The Zambian law is the worst law we have on liquidation. And our president capitalized on it very, very much for the companies he liquidated. Why? Because the liquidation law as it stands, and unless it has been changed, the liquidator pays himself first. He's number one on those people who are being paid. Next are any of these creditors. The workers write down, and in most cases, most of the workers or the companies our president liquidated died without getting a single ngwe. He can correct me if he wants, but I know that as a fact. Was a liquidator in Zambia who choose the choicest assets, downgrade the price, and he gets them to pay himself. I don't know, maybe that was one of his styles, but it's up to him to tell us. Because it's an issue that has come up and has gone during elections. With me, I would like him to come out clean. Zambians, yes, these things happened, this is this, this is this. So that we settle our hearts. So,
he once offered a two-bedroom house to whoever will provide information that he participated in the liquidation process of state-owned enterprises.
He did. He did. He knows that. But he feels, why should we offer a house? He wanted the truth out of his mouth, not a house. He wanted the truth. I'm aware that there are some companies liquidated. If I have to check my notes, because I've got notes, boxes and boxes.
And when are you writing the book?
I always blame myself. And I've lost a lot of my manuscripts. You know, I've written a lot of plays. Apart from that, the Soweto, there was a follow-up, Soweto Revisited, and the Soweto Remembered. Then I did one called The Day the Man Died. I was looking at the South African president dying and getting to Heaven's Gate. There is tried by two angels. They ask him a source of kings, and his character comes out.
You know, I love how Dr. Kaunda brought the story of liberation through the arts, and, you know, like all the stories, all the plays you've just talked about are South African-oriented. The current audience may not understand how Pan-African we were in nature.
Zambia.
That the struggle for South Africa, the struggle for Rhodesia, the struggle for Namibia were our struggles. Hence, even in your play.
That's why I'm saying that without Kaunda, these countries would have taken longer to become independent. With us, we're carrying Kaunda's message. I don't know whether Mwamba's book is out now. I was helping edit some of the things on Mwamba Kapumpa.
Oh, okay, yes, Honorable Ambassador Mwamba Kapumpa, yes.
I don't know whether those issues are discussed. Because we became ambassadors, Kaunda's ambassadors. For Namibia, I did a play based on the story of Johnny Aoto. He was one of the liberation guys there, early, called Bedshot in Windhoek. I wrote that play on behalf of Bank of Zambia and directed it for them. So then, again for Tikwiza, the last play I did for them was the Waiting for Sanctions, which Mandela, when he was immediately was released, the first country he visited was Zambia. Because he knew Zambia is what made South Africa.
Correct.
The first country he visited was Zambia. And at State House there, we performed Waiting for Sanctions for him. So,
yeah, we should write. So, Mwanawasa,
the problem, that first Mwanawasa.
Mm-hmm.
Partly that accident happened, did basically disorient him. But among Zambians, he seems to resonate very well with Zambia. That's why they've called that shopping mall, Levy Mall,
Levy Mwanawasa Stadium,
and Levy Mwanawasa
Teaching Hospital,
the teaching hospital, and so on. So, but some of those, yeah. So it has made him, in the eyes of people, that or maybe they were sympathetic to him. I don't know, but it has made them accept him. Definitely, he did some things right. I think it was under him that Itej finally found a way to be built. Because unfortunately, under President Chilwa, building infrastructure, electricity, what and what, it didn't come. And we didn't have a serious problem. But we get into Levy Mwanawasa, then Rupia Banda, those things begin coming out strongly. So he contributed that. Though in terms of the constitutional development, that's why at times I don't like lawyers. Lawyers are a bad lot.
They'll come after you.
I know. They're a bad lot. For instance, my friend John Sangwa, I was expecting him to speak loudly over Hakainde Hichilema and his refusal to move to State House. The way he spoke loudly on Edgar Lungu over
the butane.
The butane and also the the perceived third term. Because that was, they were divided about who, is it a third term or is it a third term. The constitution was saying if it's less than 3 years, I think so, and so on. So I was expecting him to be in the forefront to say, Baba, go to State House. But silent. So I'm reminding him, please, sir, we were very good friends when you are my lawyer and the lawyer of the post. Do the right thing. Speak out on Hakainde Hichilema staying at his private house, and an unauthorized house. It's an unauthorized residence. If he takes documents from State House to there, in America, it's a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense. If the amounts of money that are being spent on him to come to State House, in my common man's language, it is theft. That the president must know. It is theft, theft, theft. There's no other explanation. So you cannot say, I'm rich, I don't want this, I want to stay in my own house. The president must come clean. Let him stay where he's supposed to stay. So, John, please, let's hit up the Mbaula. Like Kaunda will say, "Faka speed mfana."
No, we'll tell John. Rupia Banda.
Rupia Banda was slightly messed up by his children. But you know those children were already adult. Some of the things they were doing were, and no, I can't use the word, but they were bad. They were bad. If they were still young, but they wouldn't have behaved like that. Because Chilo had this problem with that boy, what was his name?
Castro.
And then Benny Munila, that problem, there was a Castro's friend, son of Benny Munila. It
was Benjamin, actually.
It was also Benjamin. So we have had those presidents. This current president, his children are still young, I think. But how old was he at independence, our president?
I think it must have been 4 years.
4 years.
I think, to my knowledge, he was either born in 1959 or 1960. I have to check.
Okay. And he went to university very late. But what baffles me, any person who was good, except that even our lecturers, the academics at UNZA, or any of the universities, some of them have warped minds. They easily condemn Kaunda for this and that, instead of understanding the issues, because we have serious issues about our country.
Yeah, first as a historian, probably that's why you are advocating that we should teach history, especially recent history. We learn a lot of history that's sometimes not relevant. Maybe with hindsight, Keke can be cast in better terms, because he's been cast as a dictator, who ran down the economy, hence multipartism. And you are arguing that the record of Kaunda is distinguished and it should be respected. So only history can put things in proper perspective.
Yeah, one thing, when we talk about history, I wish we can have a time or some training, some course on issues pertaining to Zambia, the history, security. Security. Because I know that our president possibly is ignorant on those. He may be briefed, but he has not actively said, guys, we don't know where our problems will come from. Keep a tab on that. Because it's not by accident that at times South Africans just rise and begin killing blacks from other countries. That's not an accident.
The xenophobic attacks, yes.
It will happen. And when the violence happens there, and it goes into Zimbabwe, because the Zimbabweans also will be chased from there, come into Zimbabwe, it will come to Zambia. And we have our perennial problem. Congo. Now we can add even Rwanda and Burundi, especially Rwanda. Because, okay, there's peace now in Rwanda. Was Museveni. But don't think that Museveni, everyone possibly likes him.
Kagame.
Oh, Kagame. Oh,
Museveni is Uganda.
Yes, sorry about that. Rwanda. Not everyone maybe likes him. But we have this man. Though I was being educated by a Rwandese friend, he says, basically there are no differences between Hutu and Tutsi. For him, those are just Rwandese. And in the language he speaks, Rwandese, there's no... But the conflict that arose because of the Catholic Church promoting the Hutus to take over. Because that's what in the end led to the genocide in 1994.
Yeah, it's a set of complex issues.
Yeah, so all those issues. Now, here, if we don't know the possible problems that we'll have, what kind of a country do we have 40 years from now or 50 years from now?
So we must invest in security, all forms of security.
Oh, yes.
Your dear brother Michael Sata, then Edgar Lungu, before we wind up with President Hichilema, although you've discussed him a bit.
Michael Sata, for the first time, he looked at the issues of the projects that UNIP started. Maybe because he was UNIP throughout. He was Mark II of, EPF was Mark II of UNIP. That's why he did the ring roads, educational institutions, every health issue. He upped the game. And no one yet has, Edgar also continued with it. The two presidents, those in terms of that infrastructure development, our current government hasn't matched it. I don't know whether it's in terms of training of personnel, commandos. If they have, let's know. Let's know. And what is really happening, we don't know.
And President Hakainde Hichilema, other than the issue of him staying at State House, do you have any other concerns?
The concerns, the other is the royalties.
Mineral royalties.
Mineral royalties. It's wrong to call it a tax. It's not a tax. Again, it's lack of knowledge, history. Royalties were started by the British South Africa Company, who were administering this country until 1924. They got a concession from Lewanika, which they extended up to the borders with Congo. And they assumed they were given those rights by Lewanika to be giving out to mining companies. So giving those rights, the right to mine, is what that charge is. It has nothing to do with the
whether you have
tax.
made profit or not.
You see, we are not talking, you haven't reached the issue of profit. You are digging in the Zambian ground to take the minerals out, charge, and it's on the production. And it's a small figure. Now,
It should not be on profit.
It's that you are giving them an honor to mine. We are saying, give Zambians this amount. So a president can't just come from nowhere. He doesn't even understand the politics of the royalty charge. That, we are taxing him too much. We're not. It's our right. It's our minerals. We need to protect that. So I think, again, I'm asking the president to revisit that issue. Because it is our right. We give people the right to mine. Okay, let's take other products in Zambia. Which product are we not taxed? I'm a farmer, but I still pay tax. People say, but what tax? If I buy sugar, there's tax. I buy cooking oil, I make a mistake, I buy beer, there's excise duty there. Anything you buy in this country, there might be a sales tax, this tax, this tax. So all Zambians continue paying tax until they go to their grave. There's no one who doesn't pay tax, except maybe the president doesn't pay tax. But all of us pay tax. So you can't say, I don't pay tax. So the royalties issue, it needs a revisit. And this brings me to mention the Economic Association of Zambia. I forgot about them. The Economic Association of Zambia, they have been silent about State House, about the maize, the losses. The people who bought that maize maybe are the ones who will be selling it back to us, whether it's through a World Food Program or what. It's to be maize from Zambia, which will be buying at an expensive price, or to be given to us as a food aid, our own maize, which foolishly we sold, because we wanted the money. So
as we begin to end the program, we've done 60 years. Where to Zambia? Where to? What should we do better? What should we improve? What mistakes should we leave behind?
At the moment, the most serious issues lie with our president, which we need to correct. If we don't correct, we'll have a problem. We'll have a situation like the South American republics, where only rich people will take part in politics, or will sponsor even others to be MPs. Because here it is already happening, and it will happen. And then you press gang people to vote. You tell them lies, if you don't vote, we are going to know you. So go and vote. We have only one chance to solve this problem before the next elections. But let's get our president admit his mistakes. Let's make our president say, people of Zambia have done wrong. Any correction starts with an admittance. I've done wrong. Forgive me. I've insulted your intelligence. I've insulted you, my voters. Because it's an insult. By whatever description, it's an insult for a person elected to be at a certain place. It chooses an unauthorized place. He takes even documents to an unauthorized place. How do you monitor those documents? Donald Trump was in problems about those documents he was taking to Malago. Hillary Clinton was also in problems about some documents she was taking somewhere. These are the developed countries. But the biggest problem we have in Zambia is that our president, any president, I'm talking now from Kaunda to the president, is the most powerful man in the whole world. Why? He's very powerful because of the stupid things they can do and no one questions them. He's very, very powerful. I'm not talking about nuclear weapons, which in terms of the Americans or the Russians or the Chinese. But right now, the dynamics of problems between America, it's not Russia, it's reduced tremendously. It's China. Both China, they propped it up because they wanted cheap labor. But now it's coming back to haunt them. And that's why they want to be here, because the Chinese have been our good friends since Kaunda's time. If they can disrupt that, then they'll be happy. But it doesn't mean they are our friends.
Yeah.
They do things for themselves. What is wrong with our president doing things for us, Zambians? So we are proud of him, that he can stand up and say, "Nyet, this is wrong. My people need this and that."
Oh,
So I think I've covered a lot of these things. What have I forgotten? Academics, have I mentioned them? I think I have.
Yes, among those, do you want them to take their place and speak and the church?
Speak out.
Yeah.
Oh, the church is the one I forgot. Yeah, the church. Though now I hear some whisperings, is it the Catholic Church and so? But you know, all these organizations, when the UPND was in opposition, they put their own positions in line with the opposition. Now they feel ashamed. How do they now criticizing the people they were promoting? But there's nothing wrong. Life changes. That's why you don't burn your bridges, because you may need them. Right now, they need this bridge of speaking out. The church. No, you go, we have an overnight, busy singing this and that. You forget that God helps those that help themselves. I get sick at the farm. My prayer is only 3 words. God, heal me. Or heal me, God. Mulungu wanga nichiritse. Then I'll take the medication I want to take. And I get well. Because God listens. He listens and is alive. So we are praying through God that our president, for the first time, you see the light and say, yes, I've been wrong to my people. Let me do the right thing. So that one, I can't leave him just like that. So I've talked about the one-party state. I've talked about South Africa. It's us. And the fact that I've talked about the American base, KK's analysis. Oh, I think I've talked about all these issues.
You have covered, and you've covered very well. What are your last words, Mr. Phiri? I'm glad that you came out of retirement from your farming activities as you prepare the new farming season, just to come and speak to the history of our country and your role that you've played as a veteran journalist in contributing to the development of our country, and your foresight and criticisms. And I hope that our dear audience and viewers, including President Hakainde Hichilema, have heard what needs to be done. We need to do the correct things.
One of the things I didn't mention, on behalf of the Institute of Security Studies in Cape Town, I was a participant in a research project on human trafficking. I was the researcher for Zambia. It covered 5 countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, but I used to cross without being stamped to go that way, following up. And it was a very interesting exercise, because you do look at newspapers, you find this report. YWCA says there's a lot of human trafficking in Zambia. You go and talk to them. What information do you have? You find I have 0. Yeah, but why talk about it so that you have a headline? Because human trafficking, basically, does not become human trafficking until the trafficked reaches the destination. There they may end up in a sweatshop or in prostitution. Then that person has been trafficked. What we discovered a lot, people smuggling. You find a pastor in Congo, every month he takes a group of people, women and children, to South Africa, but it goes through Mozambique. And he says there's a church conference in South Africa. He comes back, not with any of those people, but driving a new vehicle. So there used to be things like that we found. And in Luangwa, you had people from Ethiopia, even here in Lusaka. The Ethiopians even had some place where they were teaching new arrivals to speak Nyanja. These things, but it was human smuggling. Then I did another job for the institute, investigating organized crime between Zambia and Tanzania. That one was interesting. That's why there was a company in Nairobi. They bought a printer from Germany, which the Americans tried so hard to stop its sale anyway. Was that printer with good paper, print whether it's a $100 bill or a 100 kwacha bill, to come out with all security features, maybe, except maybe for that car. And the people were being crooked in the northern province. These people were buying beans and so on and so forth. But we also found there that from Bala, going to Tanzania that way, relatives in Tanzania were the ones stealing the cattle, cattle, bring it to Mbala. Mbala there, either it was slaughtered and carried as meat to the copper belt, or live cattle to the copper belt. So all those things were part and parcel of organized crime. Then the other thing that I worked on now, locally, investigated something on drugs. There's someone who was at the post. Through my reports, I helped, or we forced the government, Mr. Newstead Zimba, to follow the law and deport that guy. And I was always on his door. That's why I'm saying journalists now don't know. If you have the facts, you go to a minister, hey, this guy must be deported. And he was deported. He went to South Africa. The South African Sunday Times said, my guys, how did you get rid of this man? Yeah, we can't even get close to him. Give us his photographs, what and what. We sent the photographs. They helped to get him kicked out of South Africa. That's what journalism is about. That's what journalism is about. So I did a lot of investigation once at the post, but I also did some investigation which helped to have a law in Zambia enacted.
Which law?
You know, drug dealers.
Oh, okay.
Drug dealers, don't forget. So I can't tell you which law.
Oh, I see.
But a law was enacted within 6 months of my giving a report.
Okay. Oh, that's good contribution. That's what a journalist
should do. A law was enacted, and it is still there.
Wonderful, wonderful.
There. So these are things that some of us have done, apart from acting, directing plays, and
of course, momentous change.
And with the MISA helping to shape the media. But now I think the media, unless they can do something, and the worst among the media are the women, unfortunately, right now.
Why? Why are you harsh on our women? I protect women.
I also protect them. But when they do stupid things, there's nothing. Because some of the very bad reports that were coming out before the elections, mostly were women. A lot of them. Then also the other men.
Well, you're opening up a can of worms and we have no time for it. But
what I want is, I've been very provocative. Like I said, a journalist, if you are just writing praises, then you are not a journalist.
Correct.
Step on people's legs or kick their backsides. So I think I've provoked the debate. And I want us to discuss, not threats.
Yeah.
That no, we heard him say this and that. I refuse that. Let's debate.
So you want the women to be very good journalists?
Yes, we used to have very young, good journalists in the past. Some of them even worked for the BBC and so on. But now, I doubt. Maybe you know some.
No, there are a lot doing very well. There are a lot doing very well.
Give me some names
but
one day.
For me, it's a structure of the media where the public media can't write what needs to be written. The journalists that work there know the job. They are trained to do the job. But management will not allow them. What you have is propaganda. What you have, you know what state control does. The landscape on community and commercial radio station is another way. First, there's lack of investment. The salaries are poor.
That's if there are any.
That is if there are any salaries at all. So the landscape is also not good for good, thriving, investigative journalism in this country. There are isolated cases where people break through, but this is a very difficult period for our media in Zambia. If it were not for social media, I don't know where our media organizations would be, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. No, thank you very much for bringing me here. I think I'd forgotten about media.
Yeah.
And I feel that it is good that you asked me to come. And you have allowed me to be very provocative.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
To allow people to talk. I want the president to talk. You cannot say, who is this